Hello, welcome back to my series in Factorio, in which I'm attempting to build my very first mega factory. My name is Azrael. Come along with me as we continue our adventure. Now, I was thinking about some things that I could do over here in my oil processing area about improving the logics, whatever, for cracking light oil into petroleum, because I noticed that it's just not quite keeping up with the demand. Uh, Originally, what I had is just it would read the contents of one tank, and if it was over 2,300 units, it would supply power to the cracking plants that would then produce the petroleum gas. But I've noticed that I'm running out of petroleum gas without there being enough light oil in the system for the cracking. So I'm trying to set up a circuit network using some combinators, my very first combinators, ladies and gentlemen. So I really have no idea what I'm doing here. But I'm trying to get it to work out to where it's either 2,300 units of light oil per storage tank or less than 500 units of petroleum gas per tank, and that would cause the power to flow. But for some reason, it just doesn't seem to be working the way it would make sense that it's working. It's reading that the first combinator is reading if it's over 2,300 units of light oil and outputting the Z signal as 1. The bottom combinator is reading the petroleum gas, and if it's less than 500 units, it outputs the signal Z equals 1. In either case, they're both fed into that power switch, where if it reads that the Z signal is 1, it's supposed to turn on. But for some reason, it does not work that way. I have to actually turn it to be greater than 1. So I'm not quite sure why it's working that way, but it's working for right now. I'm gonna not worry about it. I'll probably have to come back and take another look at that again here fairly soon, just to make sure that it's indeed working. Anyway, another thing that I wanted to do today is, unfortunately, it's going to be kind of a long and tedious process, but I've done some calculations regarding my solar array down here to the south, and realizing that I've said it before, but it's not quite up to that magical ratio of 84 to 100 accumulators to solar uh, panels. Right now, each of those groups, it's the little grid. I just call each of those individual units an array. Each of those has 16 solar panels and 12 accumulators, if I've done my math correct on that. So that's only a ratio of 75 to 100. So I've worked it out on paper to where I can achieve the magical ratio without upsetting too much of this, but it does require that I remove a few of these things to make it look a little more pretty. And then in my calculations, I've discovered that if I move my entire solar array, or the entire grid, up or down by a single tile, I can also put a railroad network right through the center of this design that I came up with. So that unfortunately does require a lot of work, but I believe that it's worth undertaking. So right now I'm taking each row of arrays offline and moving them up by a single tile, and I'm so glad that I have my little construction bots to help me out with this, because otherwise this would be an exceptionally tedious process. So this is going to take a while to set this up, but I promise that in the end it will be worth it. Now, one of the things that I've discovered is that if I put these arrays into a 5 by 5 grid, that still keeps it to that 75 to 100 ratio. But then I want to leave a little gap that's the size of a full array, but just have the accumulators going up the center. You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a moment. right there. If I do that, each one of those adds an additional 6 accumulators per segment. And if I do that between, this is kind of hard to explain. As you can see, the full arrays just above me, uh, I've arranged them into a 5 by 5 grid. And if I have 4 of those arranged in a little square with the single row of accumulators between, kind of what you see me doing here, and then right in the center, in the intersection between those 4 lines of accumulators, I just plop down an additional 24 accumulators. That gives me that magic ratio. Unfortunately, I don't have enough room to put an additional 5 by 5 grid down here on the south side. It's only a 2 by 5. But eventually that line will be extended out to the south. It just requires that I move my defensive perimeter down a little bit, which is going to happen eventually anyway, because I have my eye on that copper deposit down at the bottom of the mini-map that you can see right there. Because as you saw in the previous episode, my existing copper mine is not holding up very well. It's actually burning through ridiculously fast. I did not account for that. But I am going to have to do something about that eventually. And I want to have a way of getting my rail network down there to the south easily without this gigantic solar grid in the way. So having that little path go down the center is going to be of great help to me. As you can see, I'm just setting up the next little 5 by 5 grid of my solar array, letting the bots fill in everything over there. It's really nice having the extended range that comes from having 2 personal roboports in my armor instead of just 1. Now, as you can see, I'm setting up the additional line over here. Let those bots put that down. And then the beginnings of the next 5 by 5 grid, which is again only going to be a 2 by 5 grid until I can actually get the room down to there to the south. In the meantime, got to move all these power things out of the way. I will be reconstructing those because I don't want to leave a bunch of laser turrets unpowered down here. I could use all the help I can get. I'm not going to go ahead and fill in the rest because this will eventually get moved anyway. Anyway, right here in the center, you can see I'm putting up the grid of 24 accumulators. Now, assuming that the pattern continued to fulfillment down in the south, this would be the perfect ratio of solar panels to accumulators. And so with that finally out of the way, I'm also going to set up the rail connector down in the center. And I am going to have to use a roundabout for this. There's just not quite enough room to set up a 4-way T-junction. I guess you'd call that an X-junction? I don't know. Because the main benefit to this is that the roundabout leaves all that space right in the center, which is going to end up being the perfect size that I need, as you'll see here in just a few minutes, once I get all the signals worked out, and I can rebuild the blueprint. That looks like it should work for my needs. I'm going to clear the previous one that I used and pick that up, the roundabout junction. Perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and head over here. Now there is one slight issue to that, is that there's a total of 4 solar panels and 8 accumulators that are in the way. I'm going to have to just move those out of the way. I'm going to have to remember to put them down again later. Yeah, whoops, forgot that last little panel there. Look at that. That fits perfectly in there. That is the reason why I had to move everything by a single tile, because otherwise it wasn't going to match up it wasn't going to match up quite like that. So with that finally done, now I just need to put in the missing stuff that I had to remove back in there. There's the 8 accumulators that I had to take out. And instead of replacing the 4 solar panels, I'm actually going to make 8 solar panels. So there's just a little bit extra in there. But doesn't that just look so pretty? And everything's fully powered and everything's up and running. So with that out of the way, I can finally move on to other things. I do believe that's going to come in very handy in the future as I get things set up. Now, one other thing that I wanted to do up here is speaking of moving my defensive perimeter, I am going to square out the northwestern portion of my wall instead of it making all those little twists and turns as it's hugging the contours of my factory. I just want to go ahead and claim all of that excess space up there because that's where my circuit production facility is going to go. I just need to pick up some extra ammunition in case the fighters decide to come along and christen this new wall before it's seaworthy, as it were. Putting on all the ammunition down there. I want to get rid of the old corner. That should do it. All right. And I want to make sure that it lines up with the northernmost portion of this wall, which is over here. Oh, look, there's a biter attack. Right here. All right, I'm going to extend this out to the west to meet the line that I just created. And be sure, because this area is getting a lot of heavy biter activity, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's prepared. Put a few more of these segments out here. And there you can see the other side, but I'm running out of wall segments. I'm just going to go ahead and finish up the last couple of turret placements, just in case, because it's a little more important to have the turrets in place than the walls at the moment, because those can at least fend off an attack, whereas the walls are just an inevitable liability. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and demolish the interior wall, get all that up and out of the place, or out of the way, rather. And I'm going to reorganize these substations so that they're a little more efficiently placed. There we go. Because it works just fine this way. I didn't need that you know, neat little pattern before. Just get everything moved out there, get that little excess thing off the top. And this should line up almost perfectly with the substation that I have along here. And I'm going to go ahead and reorganize them as well. That was like one tile short of an exact fit. Try to say fit and match at the same time, came out mid. The way my brain works. All right, and that is one tile that one tile's worth of space I can live with because it's overlapped instead of having a gap, and that's always better. And I'm gonna replace all these lights that I took down so that we can see what's going on out here. Put a few of those around my smelting facility because when the smelters are not running, you can't see anything. When they are running, of course, then they light the area up themselves. But since my main bus belts are backed up so much, then there's not a whole lot of production going on over there. One of these days, I'll probably end up completely rewiring the iron side of that smelting facility. But I'm not going to worry about it today. And okay, that's all taken care of. One thing that I wanted to do before I forget is to finish out some of those express belts that I didn't quite put down in the previous episode. Clearing some of the old belts out of my inventory because I'm going to be getting a whole bunch of them. And some of the non-trash items out of this junk box. Because I also remembered I put those down. Alright, there's a little bit of red belt left over there, a red splitter. That should all be up and good. I briefly considered putting up a fourth dual column over here because I am about to make great use of all the copper and iron. Yeah, I can't believe I actually missed the fact that that laser turret was not getting any power. I'll have to make sure to remember that in the next episode. I'm just checking out my power. Looks like everything's good. The solar panels are fully charging the accumulators during the day, and the accumulators are lasting the whole night. The steam engines that I have as my emergency power are not even being used at the moment. That is wonderful. That is the perfect reason. That's why you want to have that magic ratio of 84 accumulators for every 100 solar panels, so that you can actually get that. Uh, all right, now it's time to start setting up the new circuit production facility. I thought I had a blueprint for green circuits in my inventory, but apparently I did not. So I'm going to go ahead and make one now. I probably should have upgraded all of those to the proper belts first, but oh well, I'll make sure to take care of that soon. Put that in my blueprint book, cycle through to it, and there we go. That looks like a good spot. Now, obviously, I don't have enough yellow belts in my inventory for it to finish those blueprints. I'm just going to upgrade everything to an express belt anyway, which will be kind of funny because as I pick up the old belts, the construction bots think, hey, I have more of them, and they're going to go put them down where they're supposed to be. And then I'm just going to go along and upgrade them anyway. But oh well, it gives them something to do. They're earning a paycheck. And just want to get all of these set up. Now, if there are any suggestions for ways to make this setup a little more efficient, I am all ears. Make sure to let me know in the comments section. But for right now, this does seem to be working just fine. As long as, of course, I get a steady stream of input resources. There's the updated blueprint. I'm going to go ahead and set one over there. But then I realized that these substations on the end don't quite match up with the pattern I want. So I have to take those out. I'll probably end up changing the blueprint again later, maybe to include all that entire length there. In the meantime, I do not have enough assemblers in my inventory. I need to pick up a whole bunch more iron plates to craft those up. And while I'm at it, I am also going to need a few more express belts. Alright, and just bringing all that over. The concept here is that this is going to give me a total of 16 circuit assemblers. And once I get the assemblers upgraded to the level 3 or the yellow assemblers, this ideally will produce a full blue belt of output of the green circuits. Of course, right now I'm only using the level 2 because I don't have any speed module production up and running yet, and that's something that the level 3 assemblers require. And I still don't have enough iron in my, or rather the assembly machines in my inventory to finish the blueprint, so I'm going to have to go back and get some of that. Along the way, though, I'm going to start bringing over some of the items off of the main bus, the plates, and so I can get that up. And then I'm out of belts as well. I just need to get a few more of those in my inventory. I'm going to craft up some of the brain just stopped. The assembly machines, and apparently my mouth followed suit. There's something being destroyed over in my iron mine, though, so I'm going to go make sure that that's nothing too heinous. I really hope that the biters have not gone inside the wall, but it turns out that they have not. They just destroyed one of my turrets. I'm going to go ahead and put down some reinforcements over here, because this area does seem to be getting quite a few attacks. Eventually I will get my defensive perimeter around on the northeast side of the factory, so hopefully that'll prevent attacks like that from happening. In the meantime, I'm going to get some power over here. I first started out using substations, but then realized that power pylons are probably a better idea, but I don't have enough of them in my inventory. So for right now, I'm just going to finish the last mile with a few substations, get everything up and running, let my construction bots place down the last couple of items, and it is outputting a steady stream, maybe not a full belt because I'm only using level 2 assemblers, but it is producing quite a bit. That is actually twice as much production as the factory was getting before, for a total of 3. Of course, I'm going to shut down the green production facility that's over here because it's just going to be completely replaced with this new facility. Alright, I'm just checking to make sure that I've got everything I need. I'm going to craft up a few of those extra power pylons that I did not have. I realized I need some copper plates for that as well as the steel. And I'm about to take this area down, and I realized that that's where I had connected all the power for the new facility. Empty out a bunch of stuff out of my inventory, and realized that I also put my construction bots in there, so needed to pick those up. And they go to town picking up all of the remnants here. It's going to take a while because they're picking up all the resources as well as the machines and the belts and the inserters and all that good stuff. But it does get it all done, and we're ready to go. I'm going to clear these connections out of my main bus, just because it looks a little bit better that way. There's no point in having a line of copper and iron plates going nowhere. So I'm just going to pick up all of this infrastructure over here. And I'm going to do this by hand instead of using the construction bots because they really did take a little too long in doing that job. Get that out of the way. Alright, I can clear out some of these underground belts, just because I like things to look nice. Fix the little curve there. And that is all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Azrael. Never stop building.